Hello then, how are we doing? And Manchester United are back. I did the look back, Chris, look back yesterday. Do go watch that. It's reviewing all the games, but there was one game we were missing. It was Monday night's action of Manchester United at home to Liverpool in a big Northwest derby, one of the biggest, you might say. And of course, as a Liverpool fan, of course I'm going to cover it because it's going to go so well that how could I not oh dear, oh dear. There's lots of issues on both sides of this game, but we'll start we'll start with the losers, Liverpool, the big losers really. Disjointed is the words you have to use really for a team that are so in sync and are so known for being so in sync and being slaves to the system of Jurgen Klopp. They've lost their way a little bit. Yeah, there were flashes, right, and they had a lot of the possession in the game. But it very often means nothing if you don't win. And I've done some analysis. Liverpool didn't win. Defensively, Virgil van Dijk has started the season, how do we put this? Slowly, I would say. Literally and figuratively. Figuratively? That's what? Although it doesn't help when your midfield have forgotten how to press adequately. That's not ideal either. And let's not let Virg off this really. There is a different Van Dijk between being, and you have to bleep this, Chris, cool as right, which is excellent, and he loved that. Very exciting when he looks like he owns the place. But there's also a difference between that and being quite lazy with your defending to the point where, and he's always had sort of this nonchalant attitude, but when it doesn't work, it looks really quite bad. But in games that are as high profile as this, you ain't gonna get away with it. And at the moment, between those two versions of himself, he is blurring the lines to currently not being a particularly good defender, which is a big issue for Liverpool. Joe Gomez next to him looks like the Joe Gomez that came back from his injury a few seasons ago, not the Joe Gomez that we saw help Liverpool win a league title. And people sort of forget that season a little bit now because of the way in which it was played out, but that seems to be a problem too. Without Matip, without Konate, again, there's this disjointedness to Liverpool that is new. And it might be incredibly early to say this, but how much does this team miss Sadio Mane? And it's in two parts, and there's a player I'm going to talk about here which I don't think many people are criticising, but he needs to learn quickly. If there's one issue I have with Luis Diaz, and it really does boil down to this one issue actually, it's that he has this willingness to take on his man, to hang wide and embarrass any right back or central midfielder that decides to come near him, and more often than not gets away from that player. But the lack of desire to drive into space before the ball arrives at his feet is becoming an issue. You can trust Andy Robertson down the left-hand side to bomb forwards. Luis Diaz doesn't do that enough. Sadio Mane, one of his greatest traits was noticing times when there needed to be someone filling space in the middle, and Luis Diaz does not do that enough. There's a graphic I can show you from the time Liverpool destroyed United, frankly. If we compare Diaz to Diego Jota's performance at Old Trafford last season, you can see the clear difference in Jota moving inside to support the striker compared to Diaz hugging the touchline. And then Bobby Firmino is doing exactly what he's designed to do, by the way. Like, I don't think Bobby Firmino had a particularly bad game. And again, you can show the differences between what he did last season in a 5-0 win and last night in a 2-1 defeat. It becomes very clear very quickly that if players aren't moving around Bobby Firmino and making Bobby Firmino's life a little bit easier, right? And because what Bobby Firmino does is he works within the chaos. He is the calm within the chaos. And so when you've got Luis Diaz, who now stays out wide, and Mo Salah, who feels quite isolated with Trent on that side as well, there's an easiness that creeps in for centre-backs or defensive midfielders of, well, we can see Bobby Firmino and I'm not having to deal with anything else. So that needs to start to happen. He needs to start to drift inside. It would have been a very different game with Jota or with Nunez, but if it carries on like this, teams are going to find it consistently far easier to play against Liverpool. And one of Liverpool's big strengths throughout their time under Klopp has been they're incredibly difficult to deal with. They weren't that difficult to deal with last night. And that is not a slight at Manchester United. That is a criticism of Liverpool. Like, Salah gets his goal, but outside of that, he's not having a major influence on that game. Him and Malacia had I felt like a pretty good battle. Salah got the best of him a few times. Malacia got the best of him a few times. But ultimately, again, the goal he scores, you wouldn't consider it a Mo Salah type goal. And so we come to Trent Alexander. Can't defend now, mate. Can't defend now. Okay, yeah, I'll get there. So we come to Trent.
Trent is bad at defending.
If we can, I mean, just bear with me. Trent Alexander-Arnold. Okay, yes, mate. I get it. Now, there are two sides to Trent as a Liverpool right back, and I'm accepting that he's not the best defender in the world. There, I've said it. Again, more hard-hitting analysis from me today, but I want to explain Trent's role slightly differently, and it's not to excuse Trent, it's just an explanation of why it's not working sometimes and why it is working sometimes, really. If you're saying Trent is just a right back, okay, then you are oversimplifying Trent's role in Liverpool's team. And are there better defenders than Trent? Absolutely. Faster, stronger, tactically more aware, better at tackling, you name it, they absolutely exist. And they're not just Reece James. But this position, as we all know, has evolved, right? And being a defender is not what being a defender was years ago. And Jurgen Klopp is willing, in this Liverpool team, in this Liverpool setup, to give up defensive responsibility in the name of having Trent be one of, if not the, main creator in Liverpool's side. So when you see him out of place for the Rashford goal, there's two sides of thoughts. Like, is he going to run back an extra 30 yards and get ahead of Rashford? And should he anyway, even if he's not going to get there? Should he be showing the desire to get back? Yeah, he probably should. Would he have got there? Probably not. And does it look quite damning, especially when Manchester United finish off that chance? Yeah. But when you give a right back this amount of attacking responsibility and you sort of remove the defensive responsibility, you need the setup around him to be perfect. And with Joe Gomez out of form and Jordan Henderson being moved centrally, that creates an unhappy atmosphere on that side of the pitch. Now, Jordan Henderson has his own criticisms of whether he's effective enough with the ball, if he's frankly playing well enough at the moment. But one thing he does do for Salah, who again, I've just mentioned, didn't have the greatest game, and more so for Trent, is he will cover Trent's defensive responsibility and also sort of marshal Trent from just being slightly closer to him, and that three working in tandem, whether that be him overlapping Mo Salah or whether that be him defending for Trent Alexander-Arnold. When you remove that element of what he's doing and you play Harvey Elliott there, it's a very, very different proposition. Harvey Elliott's first thought isn't, I should probably cover for Trent. And equally with his left-footedness, it's not, I'm going to get around Mo Salah. So the dynamic of Liverpool on that side is very different. So when you have all of these injuries, and again, it's the nature of the game, it's the circumstance. Liverpool dealt with it relatively well a few years ago. It's not to say Liverpool shouldn't be playing better. They should. It wasn't a good performance. It was... I think it was an average performance. I think it's been slightly overblown. I think the idea of the Milner, Henderson, Harvey Elliott midfield being terrible, well, take out Harvey Elliott and put in Naby Keita, and you've got the exact midfield that beat them 5-0 last season. It's not horrendous. Yeah, we've moved on a year, etc. Again, I understand both sides of it. I understand Liverpool fans' frustration with the lack of midfielder. And if you'd have asked me in June, July, I'd have said, no, we don't need one. If you're asking me now, I think we need two. So it's funny how time and what you're seeing can change. But again, the injuries that are piling up, they seem consistent. And I'm sort of, when I said don't sign a midfielder, it was like, well, it might be fine. Like, they might all stay fit. Please stay fit. They haven't stayed fit. Naby Keita and Thiago's track records, I've caught up with them again. So when you haven't got Fabinho sitting in the middle, when you haven't got Henderson on the right-hand side doing that cover job, Trent's always going to look exposed. But the important thing to note is Klopp is fine with it. That it's part of the plan. And so don't get away from that. Fans of Manchester United, you're way into this video. I've not spoke about you yet. Here we go. In just a minute. If you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like on it. If you want to subscribe as well, please do. I'm really enjoying making these videos at the moment. I'm trying to bring a balance to things, despite, if it hasn't been obvious, being a Liverpool fan. So let's move to Manchester United, who were perfect, or as close to perfect as you could expect Manchester United to be. I mentioned that Liverpool were disjointed despite having loads of possession, which is irrelevant. Again, if you don't win the game, it doesn't really mean anything. If Liverpool disjointed, then for the first time that I can remember, Manchester United were together. And that is something Ten Hag deserves credit for. And I was critical of, I thought, yeah, there was a lot of spoken about the Glazers and the recruitment and things like this, but I actually thought tactically he got it wrong against Brighton, and then he got it even more wrong against Brentford. And now we're in a situation where some drastic moves have been made, and it's going to be talked about by everybody, is that Ronaldo once again on the bench, Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw not starting. He broke up the McFred conversation. They're all decisions that one makes sense and two were much needed. But to do it, and to do it before a Liverpool game where if it goes wrong, then what? Then what? And I've been calling, as many people have, for Ronaldo to be dropped, right? Leaving the possibility of Martial playing. I've mentioned it in my other look back videos. It's been a case of, we're calling it the look back. Oh God, what's happened? I mentioned it in my other look back videos that it'll be interesting. You might remember me saying it'll be interesting to see how Manchester United do with Anthony Martial leading the line. And now in this game, obviously he didn't come off, didn't come in from the start, but Marcus Rashford did a very similar job. I think Rashford completed 4 of 11 passes in the whole game, and to look at and gets a goal. But to look at that, 4 out of 11 passes, you're going, what's he done? Everything. He's done everything. Because what he's done is given Manchester United an identity, and with Sancho and Alanga doing similar things and running into spaces and knowing that Liverpool are going to have the ball and knowing that Liverpool are going to push forward and using the entire conversation around Trent to your advantage, which many teams do, by the way, and are smart to do. But again, it's sort of Klopp's allowing it and risking it to some degree. Again, and when it goes wrong, it looks bad. But Manchester United did a really good job of basically isolating 2 centre-backs, playing balls into areas which dragged Liverpool defenders all around, without Fabinho there being the natural in the role and Henderson not doing it as well as Fabinho. It's quite simple to say. It was a very well thought out idea by Manchester United that they could have been doing for ages had Ronaldo not been there. And I thought they were going to do with Cavani until they brought Ronaldo in around this time last season. But now there is a blueprint of what is required by Manchester United forwards to do so many things other than just score and create. We now have Ronaldo, though, as the most expensive impact sub in the history of football. So that's going to be exciting for a little bit longer. If you'd have to ask me where he's going to go, I've absolutely no idea. But look, if he comes on every couple of... I can't see where he fits in now. Like, no, I imagine this is a quandary for United fans. He doesn't start now. How can he? So he comes on as a poacher in games where you need a goal in the last 20 minutes, 15 minutes? What has happened? One game has decided so much for both teams, I feel like. Defensively, David De Gea was clearly instructed, and it's clear that he was instructed to do this based on what happened against Brentford, to kick the ball long, which does 2 things. One, it gets it the fuck out of there, doesn't it? Get it gone, get it removed, and it just relieves pressure on a centre-back line to step forward, on a midfield line to step forward. And when your forward line are as mobile as Manchester United's, the possibility to just challenge for those aerial balls, whether you win it or not, it's about disruption. It's about being frustrating to play against. For Liverpool, without the creativity in that midfield, and that's where the criticism came in, rightly so, you're asking Liverpool to start again. And without Thiago in the team, and you'd probably focus mostly on Thiago, who's doing that? And who's doing that effectively enough when he's not there? The silence is clear. So yeah, Liverpool don't make lateral passes, don't play through Manchester United, are playing out wide a lot of the time and trying to beat players. And Liverpool's best work comes from getting in behind. And Manchester United not only restricted that, but stopped that from happening on almost every case. Varane and Martinez, I thought, did a fantastic job. It's interesting that they deal with everything aerially, despite what's made of Martinez. He's been playing for Ajax in the Champions League. He's clearly not a bad defender. And I think the height thing is overblown. I don't think I even mentioned it against Brentford, really. Like, will teams play off on it occasionally? Of course, but it's no different to the Trent thing. Like, if there's opportunities to maybe exploit it, they'll look to that, and it's up to Manchester United to find ways to deal with that, and that'll take a bit of time, but that's what'll happen. Like, Fabio Cannavaro was brilliant, is all I keep saying. It's all I keep on my head. But it's that aggressiveness, right? That leader attitude that's what United fans want to see, right? He's a bit of a shit, Martinez, but great. You need players like that are prepared to take responsibility, that are prepared to jump in. And I saw Manchester United players getting around referees more than I've seen it for ages as well. Like, that sort of mentality had gone from Manchester United. If he's going to do that, he might bring so much more than just being a new defender. And that's such an exciting prospect for United fans. And it has to be said that the biggest thing that Varane and Martinez appeared to give Manchester United players in front of them was confidence. And Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw especially don't give Manchester United players in front of them that degree of confidence. Personally, I think it all comes from the front. I think the pressing from the front, I think the movement from the front, I think the running of channels down the front, that has relieved a hell of a lot of pressure, and a player that really benefited from that was the muck to the Fred. Scott McTominay had a great game. Quietly went about his business, wasn't the star of the show, was combative, dribbled out of danger when he needed to, headed the ball clear when he needed to. His pass completion was very good, far better than Christian Eriksen's. He may be trying things a little more often, but again, at times when the pressure needs to be relieved, not just from De Gea goal kicks or running in behind, Scott McTominay provided a bit of balance to Manchester United and proved to me that something I was saying on my Twitch stream quite recently, actually, that he can't be at this point in his career and not be a good midfielder. There's obviously one in there, but it's throwing him into an environment where he can't succeed. And what Ten Hag did yesterday was putting him into an environment where he could succeed. And succeed he did. And Bruno is probably the final player to talk about, and the player that came into Manchester United and revolutionised that team for a period under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And it's not a coincidence. And I hate to just like rag on one of the best players of all time. In my opinion, the second best player of all time. I do have him just behind Messi. Still very good to be the second. If I was the second best player of all, I'd be taking that. I'd just sharp about it. Okay, do you know what? That's good. Removing Ronaldo from the equation, though, Bruno becomes himself again, right? There's this needle about Bruno Fernandes. And again, him and Martinez both have it. It's like the Hardy boys have turned up and they're going to be very, well, maybe the Dudleys, I'm not sure. Edge and Christian. They're Edge and Christian. It's a very 2000s wrestling reference, but if you know, you know. And working in tandem, defensively and offensively, to be irritating, to frustrate teams, to make fans of other teams hate them. It's kind of what Manchester United are known for. And they're back. Let him put whatever he wants on a contract. Get him down for years. So 2-1 win, a deserved 2-1 win for Manchester United. It takes them above Liverpool in the league table. And now you've got Liverpool, desperate times, call for desperate measures. Will midfielders be signed? We'll have to find out. Casemiro already bought in at Manchester United. I'm going to be doing a video very soon covering all of the transfers around the Premier League, focusing on ones that I think were good and not so good, and maybe some players that are still needed. So that's going to wrap us up for today. If you've enjoyed it, leave a like and I'll see you soon. I'm not doing this every time Liverpool lose.